What's going on, Steelers Nation? Big win for Pittsburgh yesterday, taking down the Ravens, increasing their lead in the AFC North. Want to just talk through my observations of the game. Another strong defensive performance in this one in which that really carried a pretty lifeless offense really throughout. An ugly game, Steelers-Ravens games typically are some way, some fashion, come down to the wire, but it was an entertaining one. I'm glad they came away victorious in this one. So as always, we'll talk through, the good, the bad, everything in between. Also, because the Steelers won, giving away a free homage T-shirt. So Daryl Strawberry 69 is the winner. He predicted a close Steelers win, the defense holding Derrick Henry out of the end zone, and a PQ pick six. PQ didn't get the pick six, but he got something just as good in my eyes. So that was a strong prediction. So congratulations. Like I said, hit me up on Twitter, or I drop my email in the comments as well. So you can hit me up over there to get your free T-shirt. So just before we get started, please make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop me a comment, just a free, easy way to help support my content. I really appreciate that. But really, I thought the biggest difference yesterday in the game was really the Steelers defense, stepping up to the plate, huge performance, forcing turnovers. And then the kicking game, really, which we talked about pregame as well. So I kind of want to start with that. But, coming into the game, Lamar Jackson, the MVP favorite, really – I think in everybody's eyes, this Ravens offense was, top two, top three in most categories, EPA per play, success rate, points per drive, all that stuff. They were really humming on pretty much every level. I thought the Steelers defense had a really good plan for him. It just made life incredibly difficult. Last year in the game that they saw Lamar, I was the first to admit that I felt like there was some, maybe some Tomlin voodoo magic going on a little bit there. The receivers just had a horrific game, even though I thought Lamar overall played fairly well, with a few exceptions in that one. Probably deserved to win that game. This one was a little bit different. I thought they did a much better job just making life difficult on him. You just look at like some of the numbers for Lamar in this one. I mean, they held the Ravens and Jackson to a 36% passing success rate in this game. He had a couple successful runs, a couple explosive runs, but I mean that he's always going to be able to rip some of those off, just the type of explosive player that he is. But you just look at the way that the Steelers defended him. It was kind of a similar-ish game plan to the one that we thought we would get coming in. The Steelers did blitz him, I think, on like 46% of his snaps. So they did bring a lot of pressure. They did a really good job just keeping him compressed in the pocket. Even when he was able to kind of extend plays and get outside the pocket, I thought the coverage was really matching very well to the receivers. That was a big reason that I thought that they were successful. All of those scrambles and him holding the ball, it just seems like he didn't have any of those easy chunk plays outside the pocket. And the Steelers pass rush did their job on this one too. 42.9 quarterback pressure rate is really solid. So I thought they did a good job, not just containing him inside the pocket, good wrestling integrity, but also just like making him really uncomfortable. He had some uncharacteristic misses in this game. Just also like want to highlight, Derrick Henry, only a 38% rushing success rate. I thought that the Ravens got away from what they do on offense just a little bit. He wasn't super involved. Of course, the huge play to open the game, Nick Herbig running that play down from behind, like forcing the fumble on Henry, punches the ball out perfectly. I mean, it's really a testament to the Steelers' philosophy of like that next man up approach. No Alex Highsmith in this one. Herbig comes up huge, making a big splash play in the beginning. 3 turnovers in this one. Obviously, anytime you create 3 turnovers, it gives you a huge chance to win the game. A couple of these too, like, Patrick Queen had another extremely strong game. Back-to-back big games, and really the 2 biggest tests of the season for this defense. And I think a big reason that they were able to kind of elevate their game further. Queen led the team in tackles. He had a TFL that was a really nice play. He had another TFL that was wiped away due to penalty. They tried to get Justice Hill on like a little like arrow screen. PQ just like read it perfectly. It's just a example of good film study. Drops Hill in the backfield, and then of course like right before the half, the Ravens are trying to get some cheap points right before the break, and he luckily Keanu Benton shows an incredible hustle running that screenplay down from behind. PQ rips the ball out. Not only does he rip the ball out, he goes and picks the fumble up as well. When we had PQ on the channel earlier this year in the summer, he was obviously very motivated and felt kind of a little bit disrespected by, not getting the contract offer and things like that. And, the opportunity to go up against his former team was definitely one that, he was pretty open about throughout the week. But it's been awesome, not just to see him play this way, but to see him perform like we know the player he is, like in these bigger games, in these bigger tests. And he's made a huge difference the past 2 weeks. So credit to him. Another strong performance. I thought another guy that really bounced back in this one as well was Joey Porter Jr. Know a lot of people like freaking out over last week's game. It wasn't a pretty one. A lot of penalties from him. He gave up some really tough catches to Terry McLaurin in that one as well. But I thought Porter was pretty phenomenal. They matched him up man to man with Zay Flowers on a couple times on third downs in critical situations, sometimes even in the slot, because that's where Flowers really likes to operate. And Porter really stood strong. Airtight coverage, had two, I think, pass breakups in this one. He defended a slot fade pretty well. And then he also used his length to get it to the catch point to force the incompletion on another play to Flowers on, I think, a end breaker over the middle. So he was huge in coverage, but also want to shout out, his play, the final play of the offensive game for the Ravens, that 2-point conversion. Really smart job by Mike Tomlin to use that time out there, in my opinion, just because try to see if they would show their cards a little bit at first, and then they come out, they run a completely different play. Nick Herbig absolutely blows that thing up. It forces Lamar to take a little bit different of a track and widen his path. But I loved Porter's aggressiveness on that play, just to come up, be physical, stick your face in the fan, all this stuff. I thought it was a really strong game from him in general. Really don't have anything in terms of concerns, at least from the broadcast angle. Like I said, I thought that this was more of a legitimate Steelers defensive performance. There was they just made life extremely difficult for them on offense. Just all the numbers and stuff are really impressive in this one. And I think that we've talked about this throughout the season. We know that this Steelers defense is a good unit, but can they be a great unit? And I think they're trending in the right direction. There's definitely some things to work on. I'm interested to see what the coverage looks like when you watch it back on film. I don't know if they played as much man coverage as they did last week, but it felt like the coverage unit was working really good together. The zone spacing in this one was stuck out to me a couple times, especially on third downs. They did a good job, taking some easy throws away that Lamar is typically able to access, especially in the intermediate areas of the field. And then I thought, TJ he was pretty quiet. If you just look at the box score and stuff, I think they ended up giving him a sack on a play that Lamar stepped out of bounds or something. He had to play on Henry in the backfield where, he was unblocked, shot into the backfield, got him down. But just with knowing how Baltimore likes to play on offense, trying to get as many guys out as possible. Like I said, I thought the Steelers had an advantage from a talent perspective in the trenches in this one. I know Baltimore's offensive line has played better than I expected them to, and many other people expected them to. But they had to dedicate a lot more resources than they typically do to most pass rushers. And I think that really showed up in this one, the amount of chips they were having to send towards Watts in Watts' direction. I mean, that was a huge element to them, being able to slow down such an explosive passing attack too. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the play by Peyton Wilson in the fourth quarter to, secure that interception. I mean, legitimately one of the most insane interceptions that you'll see ever. I mean, it just an absolutely incredible play from him, from a rookie. I mean, Wilson's a guy who's had his snaps decreased over the past 2 weeks. We've seen more of Landon Roberts. I think that's actually a smart move. I really felt like over the course of the season, they've been putting a little bit too much on his plate, especially in coverage and asking him to do different things. He gets put in the game and they go right after him in man coverage, a little wheel route, and he'll have the step on it, but it's a veteran move there by Wilson to play through the hands, and not just to play through the hands to try to get a PBU, but to just straight up jack the ball from him. I mean, it's a special play, man, an absolutely special play. And you feel really happy for him to make a play like that. Big moment, your first Steelers Ravens game. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So huge play and a big point and a big portion or a big part of the game. So, I thought the defense overall, very, very pleased, man. Very pleased. I mean, you hold this type of offense to 16 points. Of course, they missed the 2 field goals, whatever. But this is an offense that had scored 20 points and had 375 yards in every single one of their games this season. They didn't do that on yesterday. So, I mean, that was it's a credit to them, a testament to them forcing 3 turnovers, giving the offense the ball in advantageous field position. Pretty fantastic. The other element of this was the kicking game. I talked about this in the preview, but Justin Tucker has not been good this season. I don't know if he's washed, or sometimes like kickers can just like lose it out of thin air. And I don't think we're necessarily there yet with Justin Tucker, but like he has not been good this season. Chris Boswell, 6 for 6, multiple 50-yard kicks in this one as well. Tucker, I think post game said that the field conditions with Pitt playing there yesterday weren't the most ideal kicking surfaces that he's probably ever played in. But it didn't matter for Boss. And like that was the big difference in this one too. Like his ability to, knock those home. And I just want to take a second to just express like my appreciation for like this is a luxury that not every NFL team has. And I think that it's pretty awesome. Like the dude, I think is like 29 for 30 on the season. He's just been nearly automatic, man. And I know it's easy to kind of just, sweep the kicking game under the rug and the special teams game under the rug. But like games like this where they're tight, hotly contested rivalry games, getting into like the second half of the season, this stuff matters like more and more and more. And the Steelers are really lucky to have Boz back there kicking the ball. So it's a heck of a game for him. I think that was pretty much what I wanted to highlight for the defensive side of the ball. We talked about the kicking. I do want to talk about Mike Tomlin just real quick before we get into the offense, because I got a lot to say about the offense too. But just in terms of Mike Tomlin's teams, like in these moments, I mean, they beat the Ravens 8 out of the last 9 times. All these games are like always like one-score games, come down to the wire. Like I said on the preview show, the podcast I do for Steelers Afternoon Drive, I just trust Tomlin's teams more in those moments than I do Harbaugh's. Like his teams just seem more prepared to me. They seem more detailed. They seem more composed. And that was the case again in this one. And I think that, obviously as a coach, you're judged on wins and losses. You're judged on your success in the postseason, which I know everybody wants them to get back to winning games like in January and February. But you're also judged at like what you're able to do in the division. And Tomlin's teams consistently play above their head, even if they're not always the most talented team. Like when you look at it on paper, like Tomlin's teams are always ready to play in these divisional games. And again, it's just something that I don't want to be taken for granted, man, because, even like little subtle decisions to like send Patrick Queen out there for the coin toss. Like, I just think that playing into, because like, I think there is a human element to football that sometimes we, as like film analysts or like data appreciators, like sometimes we wipe away that element of the game. And, Queen like clearly wanted to have a good game. And I think leaning into that emotion is a good thing. It's a good motivational factor from coach. So it's awesome. Do want to talk about the offense though. This was a very, very disappointing performance offensively, mainly because of how much this Ravens defense has really struggled throughout the season. Pretty much, like I said, everybody has lit them up this year. And you just look at the offensive numbers from the Steelers. It's pretty poor throughout, to be honest with you. 32% success rate. They were 33% on the ground, 31% of the pass. We knew that they weren't going to be able to run the ball like super, super efficiently. Baltimore's got some dudes up front. They just do a really good job in terms of defending the run. They came in as the NFL's best run defense. I thought they had some moments in this game where they did some good things. I thought the Justin Fields package in some short yardage situations, he was on the field, I think, for 3 plays, right? I think all of them were successful plays. He had a couple nice runs. The one run on second down where he slid short of the first down was just not great awareness. But again, they were successful plays, and it was a nice little wrinkle. And I'm glad they kind of pulled it out because, nothing really else was working. But overall, like we knew that they weren't going to run the ball super efficiently. Where I want to talk about, and the real reason that I didn't record this yesterday, and I wanted to kind of see how early I could get my hands on the film. I wanted to go back and watch like a handful of plays that I had questions about on the film. So I watched most of the dropbacks from this game already before recording this. It's like, I don't know, like 7 o'clock my time. So, however, I just thought the passing game, like everything about it was just absolutely disgusting. I thought the quarterback play was bad. I thought the offensive architecture in terms of like the design, the game plan was very uninspiring, to be honest with you. I thought the receivers didn't play great aside from George Pickens. I do want to talk about Pickens real quick before we start getting into kind of the negatives. Pickens continues to elevate this offense in a way that I think few wide receivers are around the league right now. You could say what you want about him. But like right now, he is playing at an extremely high level. The things that he is being asked to do and doing on a weekly basis are really impressive. He has the deep ball, the double move. It's just an excellent. I was glad the broadcast brought this up, but it's an excellent display of like late hands, just not showing his hands too early to allow the defender to get a clue on when the ball is dropping down to him. It's a good throw as well. And then the play, I think it was like a 3rd and 5 that he makes. They're in an empty formation. They put him in what I call like the playmaker spot as the number 2 on the weak side of empty. And he's running a little option route. He does a really good job, stemming his release outside, a little spray release, and then kind of gives him a little wiggle at the break point to break inside, create some separation to Russ giving the ball. Russ puts the ball out in front of him. Like he takes a pretty big hit because there's a whole defender. It's man coverage. And it's just like him like winning those situations is huge. Taking a big hit on 3rd down to get a first down is nice. He also had a really nice play in the scramble drill. He may have pushed off, but really nice play on the scramble drill to convert on another first down as well. So he continues to play good. The secondary pass catchers on this team, extremely underwhelming. I mean, obviously the talent is what it is at this point in the season. Like we've talked about this really since like the spring. We knew that this was going to be an issue, but it's just, you look at it on film and it's pretty tough to watch. But I want to talk about just a little bit about Russ, just because like I tweeted out that Russ didn't play well yesterday, and I'm just like a little bit perplexed by some of the responses that I was getting in terms of like, I think sometimes, and obviously this is not how I view the game. If you guys are subscribers to the channel, you guys know this, but like just because the team wins doesn't mean every single player on the team played well, and just because the team loses doesn't mean the inverse. I think you can evaluate player performances independent of the win-loss record. I think there were a lot of people that were doing that with the quarterback in previous years, where they would win these like low-scoring tight games where there were like 1 or 2 flashes and they'd come out with a victory, and like people would just kind of like wipe their hands up and say, oh, the quarterback it isn't a problem. And I'm not saying Russ is a problem overall right now, but I do just want to point out like he didn't play very well yesterday. You just look at some of the numbers. I mean, a 31% success rate. I mean, that like 31% success rate, negative 0.28 EPA per play. His EPA per play was 2nd worst in the NFL for week 11. His success rate was dead last. So like, I mean, I'm not making it up. I promise. Like the numbers like say how bad this thing was. Now, a couple things that I thought that Arthur Smith did not do a good job in this game of way too much shotgun, too many static 2x2 formations, asking Russ to just straight drop back. The amount of times that they're calling just quick game stick concepts is literally starting to make my eyes bleed. And then also with that, the red zone execution. The Steelers came into this game, I think, like 25th in red zone success rate or touchdown rate, excuse me. They're going to be lower than that because they went 0 for 4 in the game yesterday. They're probably going to be like 30th, I think, is the way I was like calculating it up. But the red zone, I think, was honestly like more of a design / execution thing more than it was like even like a quarterback problem. And like Russ did miss some throws down there. Obviously, the interception of Darnell Washington on the scramble drill isn't ideal. The ball is not a good throw. I think Washington could have definitely given us a little bit more in terms of like trying to play the ball at the high point instead of just, not jumping. But it's a costly mistake. Luckily, it didn't come back to haunt them. But just like the red zone execution wasn't great. The spacing looks terrible. The design of it looks like really unimaginative. I understand that like when you have Russ at quarterback, like you're going to have to take like some of these like fade balls on the outside. And those are typically like pretty low percentage plays. And like you even saw it last week to a little bit from a completion percentage standpoint. You saw it again this week. I get that you have to do some of that. It's just when you have a pass defense like this with the Ravens that has played a lot of this split field coverages, but they've been really exposed like in between the numbers. They've been terrible defending the middle of the field. They've given up a bunch of explosive plays. And the fact that like the game plan for me personally, when I'm watching it back on film this morning, it's like, how did we come up with this as the game plan this week? But yeah, I just didn't think Russ played particularly well. Like first half, I know some people were mentioning that like the offensive line like played terribly, was just like terrible, and I just don't know that that's the case. I mean, there were definitely moments in this game where they didn't play particularly well. Odafe Owe, their edge rusher, was kind of coming into his own a little bit. Like he had 2 sacks in this one, but like Russ was only under pressure 12 times and 40 something, like 41 dropbacks, less than 30% pressure rate. That's like average to below average from a weekly basis. And then, he did take 4 sacks. I thought a couple of those sacks were really like, quick pressures, things that like, it was going to be tough to kind of navigate. But there was also like some that he brought on himself a little bit as well in terms of like early in the first half. He has Pat Freiermuth on a little stick route, like in between the numbers. I think it's second 10. He looks right at Freiermuth. He turns it down. He decides he wants to like try to play like a little bit out of structure, get out of the pocket and scramble. He can't get out. And he gets dropped for like a 10-yard loss. So instead of working on a 3rd and 5 play, probably now you're in 3rd and 20 and you punt the ball away, like those types of things. And like, I always think like that's the difficult part with Russ at quarterback, is trying to, find a healthy balance from, big play hunting and like trying to figure out ways to stay on schedule. And one of the ways that I think you can do that is making sure that he is under center more. Like I said, the amount of times that they're just in the gun, asking him to get in true drop back situations, like that's not Russ's game, especially at this point in his career where he's not really the same type of athlete out of structure. You look at like the play action numbers, they only ran play action yesterday on 24% of their dropbacks. Like this was a game that was really, really close throughout yesterday. There was no reason for them to be that shotgun heavy yesterday. So I just thought the game plan was bad. I thought that the quarterback play was also bad. There were definitely some times where I thought that the receivers could have definitely helped him out as well in terms of like being on the same page in a scramble drill. But it's just it's not. You don't typically win games when you play like that on offense. But I do think that's a testament to how well the defense played, forcing the turnovers, things like that. We'll definitely take a look at all that stuff in the film room this week. I think my game plan right now is, in a perfect world, I think I would like to post something on the Steelers defensive performance. I would like to get that up on the main channel tonight if I can. This is Monday night. And then I'd also like to take a look at the 3rd down. Like the Steelers were not good on 3rd down yesterday. I'd like to take a look at either the 3rd down or the red zone execution. I'll probably put that up for members if I can get around to it like Tuesday. We are working on a short week, guys. So we got Thursday night football, Steelers Browns. Really excited about that matchup. The Steelers will be heavily favored in that as well. Need to take care of business. So the preview for that game will probably come out, I would say like Wednesday afternoon-ish. Maybe not like early Wednesday morning, but afternoonish for sure, to give you guys like 24 hours lifespan to check that out before the game, and then we'll do the recap and everything. I would like to try to do like maybe some type of like Q&A at some point this week. So again, it's just a good idea, turn on those notifications and stuff just to get notified like whenever I drop new content or go live on the channel if you're interested in that type of stuff. And again, if you want like more film room content, stuff like that, please make sure that you check out the membership. Link will be in the description. It's, less than $4 a month. You get additional film rooms, things like that. We're gonna be looking at some college all 22 film breakdowns as well. Got one on the deck that I've already started to record like half of. So I'm excited to drop that as well. But I really appreciate you guys sticking to the end. Big win for the Steelers. A lot of really good stuff to come out of this. I'm really excited to watch. I haven't got around to the defensive part of it yet, but I'm really excited to watch some of the things that they were able to cook up, and just how really impressive that performance was, to be honest with you, especially how Baltimore's played on offense throughout the season. I thought they made Lamar look worse than really anyone else has. So hats off to them. Huge win at home. Again, I'm really keeping an eye on that home playoff game, man. I'm really hoping for it. It's something I'm pretty excited about. So as always, I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I will see you guys soon. Peace and love.